I'm Dave Sherwood. I'm the co-founder and chief exec of BibliU. We're a learning enablement platform that enable universities and colleges in the US and the UK to get their textbooks and courseware more affordably and accessibly. We work with 110 institutions who between them have over 1 million students. There's a slightly longer answer and a slightly shorter answer, but I set up a charity when I was 19 with a friend who was a school teacher, so he was a strong influence. Both my parents were in education, lecturers themselves, and set up their own, well, Dad did sort of his own department at university, and Mum set up her own business. So I guess they're kind of the three key people that kind of influenced me in that respect. The charity was free maths tutoring, so also in the educational space. It's called Teach, Learn, Grow. I'm still involved with it on a board level. And I think it was that experience with Teach, Learn, Grow that made me want to create a business and definitely kind of influence the educational flavor. But I was open to doing different types of businesses. I was keen to do a software business because I thought that was where the future was headed. And it was actually on my way from Australia, where I was born, to the UK, where I'd run a Rhodes Scholarship to study, and I'm based here in London. I caught the Trans-Siberian because we were offered, they paid for the transport, but it could be any transport. So actually the Trans-Siberian plus shorter flights was even cheaper than the direct flight, which is quite funny. But on the Trans-Siberian, I had so much time to think. It's about 21 days, including stops. And so I was just thinking through all the different things that I do on a day-to-day basis and what software could do to significantly change and help those. And it was a bit of a no-brainer as a university student. You know, textbooks were one of the things I used, significantly often, and spent a very considerable amount of money on, and thought that software could make for a more affordable and, importantly, much more accessible and better digital experience. So that's the story. I suppose it was more of the long version, really. In terms of the sector, I think at a high level, not so long ago, students all bought their own textbooks. And over a very short period of time in the UK, that's moved from institutions providing for the students getting free, which is great from an equality perspective, because naturally, if you've got £400 worth of books, that falls most heavily on those least well off, who then suffer academically because they don't have content they're supposed to for their studies. So that's a key driver. The majority of institutions have moved to buying in that kind of way, which is a really cool transformation that we've helped to lead. It's been led by libraries, which I think has been sort of surprising for some. I think many people thought the bookstore or the professors would take the lead, but the libraries have. And it was actually our workflow tool developed specifically for libraries, and the broadening access layer, which made content available under a model that libraries were happy to buy, which we created, which kind of first allowed that to happen back in 2018, and now it's relatively mainstream. So it's really cool to have seen that transformation happen. I think going forward, the key for us is to impact as many institutions and students as possible. If we look forward to 5 years, we'd love to be at 1,000 institutions and impacting, closer to 10 million enrolled students at those institutions. In terms of what that looks like a bit more specifically, we're at 80 of the 160 in the UK, so we'd love to be working with pretty well every institution in the UK and providing content for all of their students, not a smaller pilot per se. And then in the US, we're at 25 institutions there. There's 4,000. So a key part of the growth story for us is getting through to more institutions there in the US. And we've had really great success there in the last year. We're growing rapidly there, which is great. And interestingly, the US is still pretty heavily student driven, so like they still tell students to buy themselves, but that transition is now starting to happen. Bookstores are shutting down, institutions taking more responsibility. It's a bit like the UK 2 or 3 years ago. And then, in terms of the impact on the students and the institutions, increasingly, particularly as we do more on the workflow side, we're saving institutions a lot of time, which obviously for them is an efficiency thing, and their staff can focus on more strategic work. So that's a big driver on that side, and we're looking to quantify a lot of that. We think we can save about 20,000 hours a year, but we're hoping that will increase over time. Well, that's a tough question. I'll go with teacher. Impact. They tie together very closely, of course. I think in our space, I'll say affordability. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it.